All right, so welcome to week 15, day 2. Today we are going to be talking about maps in C++. Specifically, we're going to be running you through an example together today that will be prepping you for your next homework assignment. Your next homework assignment is going to be implementing like a bank. Basically, it's called Bank of Keith. Keith is, of course, the mascot of C++, the rotting rat whose leg has been blown off by shooting himself in the foot. Let's see if I can find a picture of Keith the rat. No, where's Keith? There's Keith. So that is the mascot of C++ with one of his feet blown off. So we're going to be doing the Bank of Keith for the next Keith, our beloved. We're going to be doing the Bank of Keith for the next homework assignment. In order to do the next homework assignment, you're going to have to be able to use maps, use and understand maps. So what a map is, we've kind of talked about it before, is that you've got a key and you've got a value. And so you can search for data using the key. For the Bank of Keith, the key is going to be an account number. Okay. So you're going to look up somebody's account using the key, their account number, you pull their data, and then the homework assignment is going to have you transferring money from one person to another. So there's going to be a transaction, and basically person A Venmos money to person B. So the money in person A's account goes down by 100, the money in person B's account goes up by 100. And so that's basically the entire homework assignment with some extra details on it. So what we're going to do is go through a different assignment that is similar but different. So remove main.cc. And so what we're going to do in class today is we're going to do something similar to that, but it's not the answer to the actual homework. So the goal is to get you guys thinking and working and developing your skills to be able to do the Bank of Keith without actually giving you the source code to do it. And so you have to kind of understand the concepts and understand the code, understand maps. And if you can do it, you can kind of adapt and learn from what we do today to directly solve Bank of Keith tomorrow. It's due next Wednesday. Okay. So what we have here is, instead of a bank accounts, what we have is let's say that we're running the food court at Costco, right? And so Costco sells a hot dog and soda for $1.50. And maybe there's some other things here. You can get a whole pizza for $10.50. I'm just making up numbers. You get some Coke for 75 cents, Shasta for 25 cents, Faygo for 55, a pitcher of beer. I don't know if they have it or not. I just kind of made up some names, made up some numbers here. And this is held in CSV format. CSV stands for comma separated value format. So we have one or more words here, followed by a comma, followed by the price. Okay. And maybe we'll add to it later, but this is where we're going to start with. Okay. So we're going to write this code together, you guys and me. I'm going to call on random people. If you're not answering, I'm going to be sad. So we need to kind of break this down into 3 steps. Okay. So what we're going to do is, step 1 is we're going to load the prices from disk. Step 2, and for Keith, the Bank of Keith, you're going to load the bank accounts. The bank account is going to be in CSV format. It's going to have the name, if it's personal or business, your street address, your bank account balance, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be on disk. And so the first step is going to be to load all that off disk. The second step is to, here, what we're going to be doing is the person's just going to be like, I want a hamburger, I want pizza, I want a pitcher of beer, something like that. So step 2 is user enters purchases by name, and then we're going to output their total price. So after they say I want a hamburger and a corn dog, then we tally up how much everything costs, and then we display it to the screen. Do you guys understand? And we're going to use maps for this. So we are going to be using, maybe we'll use a map, maybe we'll use an unordered map. If I had to go to a desert island, I was by my previous class, unordered map, thank you. If I had to go to a desert island and I could only take 2 data structures with me, I would take water, but if I could only use 2 data structures for the rest of my life, I would use vectors and unordered maps. Those are the 2 data structures that are just my bread and butter. Those are what I use to solve, 95% of all problems can be solved using a combination of those two things. And there are other data structures. You're going to learn about them in CSI 41, and there are times when you use them. But yeah, unordered map and vector are my peeps right there. Okay, so let's start off with an easy question. How do we open a file? Zofka, Cameron Zofka, how do we do this? So I want to open that file. The name of the file is food.csv. The name of the file is food.csv. That is a comma-separated value file that contains all of our menu, the name, and the price. So how do I do that? How do I open a file? Zofka's not answering it. Everybody, chime in. What do I do to open a file? ifstream. Cool. ifstreamy. Is the file in public? This file, I can make it available to you. I just deleted the one from the previous class, so I don't have anything. So maybe I could spell properly. ifstream, and ends. I always call my files ends. So much so that last semester a student thought that you have to name your variable ends every time. So I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to call it file. I don't know. And then we have to pass in the file name, which is going to be called food.csv, like that. And that is going to open the file for reading. Now, sorry, you're kind of dead. You had a lab practical. It's okay. Jesse Allen, what do we do next? We just tried opening a file, but we don't know if that is going to be successful or not. After all, somebody could delete food.csv, or maybe we fat-fingered it and typed it in wrong. What do we do? What do we do after we try opening a file for reading? What's the next step? If not file, die. No, we don't have a die function yet, so maybe we'll just do something like this. See out and open food.csv. Why not? And die with a failure. If file is open, yeah, you can do that, I guess. That's the way I always do it, I guess. There's if file.error and fail bid, and there's all sorts of ways. That's just how I do it. So, all right. So, Serta, what do we do next? Johnny Serta, what do we do next? You're not muted anymore. You can just talk.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I believe you would do a while loop in order to read all the information and put it into a vector.
Aha. Except we're not using a vector. But I like the cut of your jib. So what should we read it into?
It would be the map or unordered map. Correct?
That's right. So I think we'll just use unordered map for now. Unordered map. And we are going to be connecting two things. So remember, the key is what you use to load the record or store the record. And so what is the person going to be typing in? Like when they buy something, are they going to type in the price, or are they going to type in the name of the thing that they're buying? The key. Yeah, what is the type of the key? Is it going to be string, or is it going to be int or float? What should it be? String. Yeah. Very good, everyone. And then when you load the price of a hamburger, what type is that? That's the value. What is the type of the value? So the key type is indeed string. The value type is going to be int, float, double. Let's go with double. I don't think we actually need double precision on it because we have 350, but whatever. Why not? We live in the science fiction future with almost 6 gigahertz processors. We can use an extra 32 bits of precision if we want to. Nobody's going to call the police on us. So yeah, so we're going to map between a string and a double, and we'll call this the prices map. And so what we're going to do is we're going to associate, another word for an unordered map is an associative array. So we're going to associate hamburger with $3 and pizza with $10.50 or whatever. So like Alan said, we're going to read one bit at a time. Brandon, Sam, got to make sure they don't underpay. Yeah, well, it's Costco. $1.50 for a hot dog, like a quarter-pound hot dog and a soda is a pretty darn good price, right? Okay. So, So what do we do? We're gonna read something. So we got the CSV file, right? So like we can do a little v-split magic here. We can do that, and we can not view. We will edit food.csv. There we go. Control that in there. Okay. So on the right-hand side, you can see the food, and we want to load that into prices. Okay, so we want to go from there into there. We're reading from disk. What do we do? What do we do? Dermer. Voss. What do we do? Give me some ideas. Read line, string stream. Do we need that? I don't think we need string stream, actually. I think we can do this directly. Read or read line. So if you did a read, right, if we read like string name equals read from file, this is going to read one word, right? And so we would get Shasta, but we wouldn't get Shasta cola. And if we write a second word, we're going to get cola, comma, 0.25. So I think we need to do read line. Yeah, very good, Caesar. So we need to do read line until comma. Very good, Alessandra. So we're going to read from the file until a comma is read. And so when you do read line, this is non-standard C++. This is my own header file that's like the standard library. It's like getLine, but better. So it's going to read from the file until a comma is read. Then it throws the comma away, and it's going to return hamburger into name. Okay. So name now contains hamburger. And then we need to put this into the map between names and prices. And so we need to read the price now. So how can we read subtle flex cough? Not that subtle. It just is better. I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to make any bones about that. So thank you, Otal. It is better. So so how do we read the number? There's a couple different ways we could do that. Like we could do this name becomes price, and it's still the new line, so we just do that. And now we have the price in string format, and then we could convert it to a double. How do we convert a string to a double? Is it stoy? Stoy is string to integer. How do we do string to double? There's got to be a stud. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, stud. Yes, indeed. So, yeah. So string to double, and then the trouble is if this doesn't work right, then we're getting an exception in die, which maybe is good because then our input file is bad. I'm fine with it. I'm okay with this. Okay. So we've read the name and the price, and now the big question is, Voss, how do we associate the name hot dog with the price 150? How do we set it in our map? What is the code for this? Dot insert? Okay, you're doing it the proper way. I see how this is. Okay. So Voss has given us the correct way of doing this. I was going to do it the lazy way, but okay, sure. Prices.insert, and we're going to insert a key value pair. Key value pairs come inside of curly boys like this, and the first thing is the key. Which one is the key, the name or the price? The key is the thing that we search on. Is the name or the price? Which one's the key? Name, very good. And then the price is the value. And so this will insert the key value pair into the map. And so later on we could look it up based on the name, and then we get the price. So if the user types in hamburger later on, it'll give us $3. So this is one of the reasons why it's called an associative array. You're associating a string with a price. Okay. Garcia, yes, very good, Garcia. That's the lazy way. That's the way I was going to do it. But, so I was going to prices square bracket name equals price like that. It's a little less typing. It arguably is a little bit more readable, right? Because this, you've got like a couple opens and a couple closes over here. These two things do the same thing, so it's really up to you. I've got no strong feelings on the matter. Yeah, pick for yourself. It doesn't matter. They're both fine. Okay. So okay. So that is how I would do it. Okay, less typing. And then we've been coding for a while and we haven't printed anything out. So I think it's time, right? I think it's time that we try this and see if it works. So this code here, we've got a printout, but we don't have a printout for this. So we should probably like print some stuff out, right? So we'll do a little auto key in prices. So for every pair in prices, because what it returns is a pair of things. It returns the key and the value both. And so this, when you do a ranged for with hash tables or unordered maps, it returns a pair with dot first and dot second. Dot first is the key, dot second is the value. So if we do this, then we will see out key dot first colon key dot second, and let's find out if it works. Okay. So if it works right, we'll get something like this. But remember, it's not going to come out in order because we are using an unordered map. Unordered maps don't preserve the order that they were passed in. Okay, so they're going to come out in some order, but it's not alphabetical or anything. It's just going to be kind of random. It's not random, but you can't really predict it. Okay. So what's the actual type of an element in prices? It would be stood pair, yes. So if you type this for realsies, it would be a const pair colon, open angle bracket string double by reference p prices. Do you see why I typed auto? So yeah, auto's there for people like me that are like, I know what the type is, but I don't want to type it because it's long. So there's some iterator types that are like this long. You know, you're just like, oh Lord, I don't want to type that. You do const auto? Yeah, you can if you want. You definitely can. That works just fine. So yeah. Okay, so let's compile the code. Run the code, and we crashed. Now we get to investigate. Okay. We didn't make it to our printout. So where did it crash? Okay. So let's maybe just do the same thing here. Cout. Name. I mean, I know why it's doing this, but price. Okay. This is the downside to using stod, right? So hamburger, hot dog, corn dog, so cat food.csv. So after we got to the very bottom of the file, right, we were on beer, and then after that, it threw an exception and killed our program. Core dumped. What's that stod do? What's it doing over there? Why did it throw an exception? What's happening? Yeah, we read off the end of the file. Okay. So I personally would not do it this way. I would actually do it like this. I would say double price is equal to read from the file like that. And then I can check afterwards if we hit the end of the file break. Okay. When everything's like embedded like that, if you string to double the end of the file character, it throws an exception, kills your program. Sure, we could do a try catch block around it, but this is just less typing and it's just easier. So there you go. There. So this should work now. And okay, we need to get like a break in here somewhere. Okay, so this is what we read from the file: hamburger, hot dog, corn dog, and then this is what the unordered map has in it: beer, Faygo, Buffalo Wings, Shasta Cola, Coca-Cola, nuggies, corn. You see how they're like not in any particular order? Like it's not alphabetical. It's not reverse order. It's just kind of, it's unordered. There's no particular order to it. Okay. You don't understand why what? Why we took stot out. Could you explain again? Yeah, so when you read, if you hit the end of the file, it returns like an end of file character. And then if you try to string to double it, it throws an exception because end of file character is not a number. And so it throws an exception. And so we could have handled that by putting like a try, like catch, break. We could have done that around the read line, but it's just more typing. And I don't like using exceptions under normal circumstances, only exceptional circumstances. Why did Stoy work in Pokemon? It wouldn't have. If there was a, like if there was a missing, like if the very last line of your file had missing elements on that row, it would have thrown an exception and killed your program. But fortunately, the code that you had either worked or you were already doing a try-catch block with it, right? Because one of the Pokemon was Camilla, and so your code probably was already checking to see if you were getting an actual number and handling it already. Okay, so but this is a little bit easier, and so read doesn't throw an exception. It doesn't do a string to double, so I would do it like that. And so you can see it's working. Okay. Where is food.csv stored? I made it. So I just typed into the split food.csv and so I just typed that into a file. So you don't have a food.csv. I just made it. Okay. So just not tmux. Yeah, I know. It would be easier if I could detach and reattach to it, right? So so just type a couple bits of nonsense. You don't need to have as many things as me. Just have 3 or 4 lines. You know. All right. So what's next? I think this is working. And so at this point, I comment out my couts, right? And so my code to like print the hash table, I comment it out because remember the approach towards coding is always break it down, break the big problem down into steps, break each step into sub-steps. We just finished number 1, loading the prices from disk. And every time you write code, you test it, you see out the stuff, make sure like we were throwing exception with stod, right? And so, you know, you have to test it. You can't assume that it's going to work right. You know, if John Carmack runs his code through a debugger every time he writes code, you do too, right? I do too, right? I mean, I use cout generally speaking rather than GDB, but I do use GDB too. It's not like you're locked into one technology for the rest of your life. But you always run your code and test it and make sure that it works. Okay. So you need to make your own CSV with items, yeah. So, what now? What's next? Herbert? Hernandez? What do we do? We just finished phase 1. It's now time for phase 2. User enters purchases by name. What's our next step? What's our next move? Where do we go from here? Take an input? Okay. What do you want me to do? Tell me. What's the line of code I'm going to write next? We're doing one purchase, or are we doing multiple purchases? Because that's going to affect maybe, or maybe we start with one purchase. That's actually a good approach too. Start with just making one purchase. See if you can look up the price for chicken nuggies, you know. And then once you get one purchase working, then you make it work with multiple. Okay. Take an attempt string, see an attempt. Okay, sure. Let's do that. All right. So Herbert suggests using cn with double right arrow instead of the more advanced code of using read, but that's fine. It's standard library code, so I'll even use STDs. There you go. STD colon cin into some temp string. Okay, but we can't declare it on the same line because double right arrow sucks. So I'm just going to go back and use read. Okay, so string temp is equal to read. Please enter a item to buy. Okay, and so this is going to, the user's going to type in hamburger or something like that. And then why don't we start off by just printing out the price of that one item. And then we can refactor it to take multiple items and add them up later. Okay. Again, you want to break things down into their simplest component and get the simplest part working. And then build up in complexity after you get the simple stuff working. So what is the no for? You didn't like the stood colon colon? Yeah, fair enough. All right, so how do we look it up? How do we tell if a hash table with an unordered map? How do we tell if prices contains temp, right? Or we can call this like food. It's called food. Okay, so they're going to type in hamburger or something. So how do we tell if prices contains that food? Because they might type in something that's not on our list, right? They might type in like sushi, and we don't have sushi at Costco, right? So how do we tell if it? The first thing we should always do is check: is it contained in prices? What is the code to see if prices contains food? Indeed, very good. So if prices dot contains food, there you go. So that means we've seen it before, like we've loaded it from disk. If so, then we can see out how do we get the price of the food. So remember, with data structures, there's always three operations you do over and over again. Insert, search, and delete. Those are the three basic things. And so we've inserted it up top there. Now we're searching. Hey, what is the price of a hamburger? What's the price of a pizza? Right? How do we get the price of buffalo wings? How do we? What's the code for that? Yep. Prices, square bracket, food. I renamed it from temp to food. And so we can say the price of food, that's the key, right, is, and that's the value. So the price of hamburger is $3. The price of pizza is $10.50. And so, or we can just say, here, just make it more compact so it fits on a line so you guys can see it. So square bracket with maps is danger. Okay? It is very danger. That's what my soccer coach used to say. Don't do that. It's danger. So this is a very danger thing to do. But it's safe in this context because of this. So for those of you that don't know, if I were to say, hey, what is the price of sushi? And we didn't have this check here, it would say the price of sushi is 0. And the worst thing is it will insert a 0 entry for sushi into the hash table. Even if all you're doing is just printing the value, if it doesn't exist, if you use square brackets, it will insert sushi for you into the database, which is extremely danger. Okay, but in this case, it's safe because we're checking to see if it exists. If it exists, then you can use square brackets, no problem, it's safe. Okay, so contains and square brackets go together like peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter and chocolate, or peanut butter and bananas, right? Square brackets is only safe if you use contains. If you don't have the contains there, you want to use .at instead. So you'd use like prices .at like that, and then it'll throw an exception if it doesn't exist. So .at is safer, but in this case, because we have this line of code right here with the contains, it's fine. It always makes me nervous, and I always double check because that is a very sharp edge for unordered maps. It's horrible design. You print the value of something in a hash table and it inserts it in. It's very, very frustrating. Okay. There we go. I think we got this. What if it doesn't exist? What should we do? What if the person types in, I want to eat horse meat, and there's no horse meat on the menu? What should we print? What's the right thing to do? Ask them to get help. Sorry, we don't have that? Sure. Okay. So error 404, food not found. All right, so let's buy some hobbit meat. Sorry, hobbit. Ooh, yeah, that was a mistake on my part. Okay, so I typed in hobbit meat, and it does not say looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. It doesn't say that. It only says hobbit. So why did it only read one word instead of two? Needs to be read line instead of read. Exactly. Yeah. So then main.cc, because our file contains, it's CSV, so you can have multiple words in there, right? Like corn dog, like 2 words, right? We should not be using read here. We should be using read line, and then that should work. When we want read line, yep, you're absolutely right. Okay, so hobbit meat. Sorry, hobbit meat is not on the menu. Okay, so if we ask for hamburger, hamburger is $3. If we ask for corn dog is $150. Yeah, and Voss did point out that it was read line beforehand, but it makes for a good teaching experience. So hamburger is $3, corn dog's $150. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this thing here. Okay. If we search for sushi, sushi's not on the menu. If we ask for pizza, pizza's $10.50. You guys understand? So this is what you need to know for the next homework assignment. Okay? Because for the next homework assignment, you're going to have an account number. So instead of the key being a string, the key is going to be an integer. Okay. And you're going to associate it with a bank account balance. And so you're going to look up people's, you're going to say transfer money from account 42 to account 900 and transfer $100 between them. So this one's account balance goes down. This one's account balance goes up. You guys understand? Basically, if you understand this, you can probably do Bank of Keith. The program is not accounting for capital letters. Should we try to account for that? Probably. Yeah. So I'm not too concerned about that right now. Okay. So the next step is, now that we have it working for one item, we need to make it work for multiple items. Okay. So what do we do? What kind of loop should we do? Should we use a for loop, or should we use a while loop? Do we know how many items in advance the user is going to buy? We don't. Okay. Very good. So while loop, while true is a good code pattern to use here. And if you want to reformat all of your code between 2 curly boys, Shift 5 will jump you, by the way. This is actually a really useful thing in general. But if you hit equal sign is the reformat character. Equal sign Shift 5, and it reformats everything between 2 curly braces. Neat. Now, there is a really good use also for, let's say that we've got just like lines and lines of code. Equal sign Shift 5, and then we can Shift 5 back down here. Sometimes your code gets so long that you actually can't see the matching curly brace, and like, and so like you try to compile your code, it's like you're missing a curly brace, and you're like, I don't know where it goes, and so people will just like slap a curly brace like at the end somewhere like that. You know, that's very dangerous. Okay, that is not a good move. It's really not. You don't want your for loops and your if statements not matching properly. It's really, really bad. But a lot of new students will just be like, well, it says I needed a closed curly brace. I'll just put it at the bottom, you know. So one thing you want to do if your code is really long like this is just make a little note here, end while true loop, something like that. So like that this is the curly brace associated with the while true loop. You guys understand? So because you can't see it on the same screen, and students aren't exactly the best at maintaining indentation properly, and so their code sometimes will look like this. Everything's like sort of mangled and like what's happening, I don't know. So you want to probably put a comment like that just so you know what's going on. Also, it's a good habit to get into to do your open close curly brace at the same time. So like if I were to write a new while loop, I'd say while true, and then I do the open close, and then I hit O. O opens the line below it, puts it into insert mode. That's what I do. So I always do the open close first, and then I do the inside part second. That way you don't forget to do your close curly brace if it's a long block of code. A lot of IDEs do that for you these days. If you type open curly brace, it'll do the closed curly brace for you. GG equals capital G is reformat the entire file. All right, so GG is capital G. 25G jumps to line 25. Like that. Shift G jumps to the bottom of the file. GG to top. So GG equals capital G reformats from the top to the bottom. And then percentage jumps to matching parentheses or brace or whatever. Yep. So shift 5, you can see it jumping back and forth. Useful stuff. Yep. I always do curly braces and write code in between. It helps a lot. It really does. Because a lot of students, like, they start writing code and they sort of forget where they are, and then they don't ever get to the closed curly brace, and then they have if statements, they don't have closed curly braces, and then they're like, well, it says I'm missing a closed curly brace. They just put them all at the bottom of the file, and just everything doesn't work, and you're just like, what's going on, And if you reformat your file, it'll help you see what's happening here. Like if you screw up and like forget a closed curly brace, then everything's going to be like indented when it shouldn't be, and you can see it, right? Like something like this, GG equals capital G. You can see like, oh, I thought that else stay. Oh, wait, shoot, and so you can actually visually see when your code is not working if you have the indentation correct. So. It inspired me to start writing comments. At the end, curly brace of long sections of code. Good. Okay. True is being written as 1. It makes sense. Yeah, it's you see that more in C, honestly. The while true loop. You'll see this written like a lot in C. Because they didn't have a true. So there you go. All right. I think C++ didn't have true for a while either. I don't think that was actually in the original. Just integers. All right. May want to add a way to stop. Yeah, that's good. So we'll need to add in some way of quitting. How should we quit? Break. When should we break? How do we get out of here? C doesn't have booleans, it just has integers, right? But booleans are integers and integers are booleans. It's 32 bits to hold 1 bit. It makes sense. It all makes sense. I wish I could have known about Shift 5. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff to know, and you're in first semester computer science. One of the reasons why I mention all these Vim shortcuts is so you can kind of just pick it up as you go along, You can kind of see the use for everything. I don't try to like throw 100 commands at you to memorize. Just like when I'm doing things, I just tell you what I'm doing. And they're usually pretty useful. So like O, right? If you're like earlier in the class, one of the students was driving, I was letting him type, and he was going like this. I was like, no, stop hitting the keys. Type O. O opens the line below it, puts you into insert mode. Or you can Shift O opens the line above it. Okay, so if you're somewhere in the middle here and you're going, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. Okay, like I'll do it sometimes, but like you're probably doing something wrong. So Shift O opens the line above. Lowercase o opens the line below. You can hit W to jump a word at a time. B goes backwards a word at a time. So if you're like trying to hop to like here, you just WWW, you know, B B B B B. E goes to the end of a line, end of a word, sorry. Shift 4 takes you to the end of a line. Shift 6 takes you to the beginning of a line. Let me write those down for you. $, end of line. Caret is beginning of line. W is word. B is backwards word. E is end of word. I think Shift E. Don't know as it Shift B. I don't know if that does anything. Okay. TNF. Okay. So, where was I? Okay. So we need to, yeah. So if food equals Q or food equals Q, and that has to be double quotes, sorry. It's a string, not a character. And break. What do we got here? Aha. Double equals. Okay. 1 equals is assignment, 2 equals is comparison. Don't make that mistake. That's why I don't like saying the word equals. I like saying the word double equals to avoid that mistake. Okay. Compile it. Run it. Hamburger. Pizza. Sushi. Biru. Okay. So you can see there, and we're just grabbing one record of another out of our food database. Okay. All right. What's next? Q to quit. Q to quit. Okay. What do we do next? What's next on our list? Add the prices up. Okay. So Hockman, what do we do? Where should we? We're going to make some variable that's going to hold our total price or running total. Where should we put it? Inside the while loop or outside the while loop? What do you guys think? Should we make a variable inside the while loop or outside? Outside, okay. What type should it be? Integer? And sum equals 0? What do you think? Yeah, I think it should be double, right? I think it should be double because we're adding up prices that are doubles. Sure, why not? Okay. And then, what do we do? Right here, maybe? Sum plus equals what? How do we grab the price of food? How do we add the price of our food to the sum? How do we load the price of the food? So if they type in hamburger, how do we get the price of a hamburger? Price. How do we get it? What's the code? Yep, price is food. And then after we're all done, we just need to say your total is sum. And we're done. So that is basically our class today. Let's test it though, make sure it works. So let's say we do sushi and ice cream and quit. Okay, you always have to test the error conditions. You know, make sure that gets handled. Okay, let's get a hot dog. Let's get a corn dog. Let's get some Faygo and quit. And the total price is $3.55. Looks correct to me. What do you guys think? Have you guys heard of Faygo soda before? No nuggies? All right, fine. Nuggies. 16.50 40-piece chicken McNuggets. Okay. Blueberry Faygo. Yeah. So Faygo is like the official drink of the Insane Clown Posse, right? I don't know why, but there you go. It's a thing. Can't explain it. Okay. Is it good? I've never had it. I can't imagine that it tastes good. I'm really not a fan of anything like sugary. Yeah, so I am a healthy person. But in all seriousness, I only drink water, tea, coffee with no sugar in it. Occasionally diet soda, but not very often. I'm pretty much a tea and coffee person these days. 200 nuggets from Burger King for fun. Yeah, I guess that's fun. Okay, so we got like 20 minutes left in class. That's $50 spent. So, in order to do the Bank of Keith, though, we're not going to just link a account number and an account balance like this. What we're going to do is we're actually going to link a account number and an account. So we're actually going to have a class called like an account. Okay. For this food thing though, maybe we'll have like a item or something like this. And again, open, close, curly brace, semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon. Don't forget the semicolon. Forget the semicolon. I forget the semicolon. Everyone does. Don't forget it. So, water and coffee, heart. Yep. Clearly maniculture too. So we want, let's say there's more information on the items that we're buying, right? Like, let's say we do have a price. Sure, double price, initialize it to 0, so we don't ever have uninitialized stuff. But let's say that we have a boolean called like taxed or something like this. So have you guys ever been to the supermarket and like some of your items, there's sales tax on it. Some of it, there's no sales tax. You know why that is? Why some things have sales tax and some don't? And which things have sales tax, which things don't? Food doesn't have tax? I pay sales tax on food all the time. Unprepared food, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. The bottle tax, yeah. So water isn't just taxed, it's got a special tax on it called the California redemption value, which is not supposed to be a tax. It's supposed to be a deposit you put down on your bottle when you buy a bottle, and you get the deposit back by taking it to a recycling station, and they hand you the money back for your bottle. However, the way that it works in practice is that you put your recycling into the recycling bin and you see none of it. So it's just a tax. Even if you recycle it, you don't get the money back unless you take it to a recycling center. So, yeah, that's a thing here in California and in many states. So, yeah, it's a tax that's not a tax because you get it back if you walk your cans into a recycling center. So, yeah, so let's do this. Let's say that for each of our items, we can have a note whether or not it is taxed or not. So let's go into our food.csv and make a note. What do you guys think? Hamburgers taxed? Yep, I think so, right? They're prepared food. I think all of this stuff is going to be prepared food. Let's just say hot dogs. It's raw hot dogs or something. I don't know. So these are not prepared. Chicken nuggets are obviously prepared. Pizza is not. Buffalo wings are. I'm just making this stuff up here. Coke, I think Coke is taxed for sure. Shasta Cola, let's say it's not taxed because the government feels bad for you if you have to drink Shasta Cola. And of course, Faygo is taxed because we're trying to, shut down the Insane Clown Posse. And beer, of course, has beer tax on it. So, Tipton, are you a fan of Shasta Cola? I used to drink Shasta Cola when I was a kid, so okay. No, okay, fair enough. Yeah. Kid, I'm gonna make a lemonade stand. The IRS upon seeing this attempted untaxed income. Yeah. But it's got a lot of sugar in it, so I don't drink it. Okay, so let's say that we have this. Okay, so we're gonna have some things are taxed, some things are not taxed. So there's a couple places. So now you get to see what refactoring code looks like. So we have a solution that works. Now we're going to break it. We're going to break our solution. So watch this cause everything to explode. So before, we were linking the string hamburger to a price, $3. Now we're going to link it to an item. Okay? This is Bank of Keith, by the way. This is what you're going to do. Except instead of a string, it's going to be a number. It's an account number. DW, by the way. DW deletes a word. D3W deletes 3 words. Just so you know. Okay, so now that we have linked a string and an item together now, hamburger is now doesn't link to a number, it links to an item, which has a number in it. None of this stuff is going to work. So, okay. So there's 2 things now. There is a price and a tax status. So we have to do this. We're going to have to do this. Okay. Bust out the stot again. Okay. And then we are going to Boolean text is equal to read line from the file equals true, question mark, 1, 0. Okay. So we're going to read from it. If the string is true, then we set tax to be true. Otherwise, we set it to false. Okay. All right. So what we're going to insert now isn't just a number, right? Price's name, this is associated between a string and an item now. Do you guys see what changed? This doesn't work anymore because we can't just put a number in because we don't link to a number anymore. Well, when we pull up the database record, it's 2 things now. It's a price and a tax together. So we have to insert 2 things instead of 1. So, and we could do it that way as well. Change word. Yeah, that's fair. Yep. Okay, so we are going to insert both price and tax. And now it works. Okay. So we're now when we're associating hamburger with 2 things. We're associating it with a price and a tax exempt status or not. And you can just use curly braces like this. This is modern C++. This would not work in old C++, but in modern C++ works fine. It keeps things simple. For simple things, you can do simple things like this. What does this stuff after double equals true mean? Okay, so that's a ternary operator. And so if we read a string from the file, and if the string read is double quote true, then that question mark is an if statement, essentially. So if all of this is true, I can put parentheses around it to maybe help a little bit. So if everything within the parentheses is true, then return 1, otherwise return 0 from this expression. So tax is going to be set to be true if the word is true, and it's set to be false if the word's false. I think read might work with it. I don't recall if it does or not. Okay. Well, this is a string, right? So we're reading a string. You can't stuff a string into a Boolean. But I think with read, we can make it work. But whatever. I wanted to show you guys the ternary operator, so there you go. Okay. And so now this is why we commented out the stuff instead of deleting it. So do that. And we exploded. All right. Which line? Oh, it's because the stuff down here is still broken, right? Like I said, it breaks everything. Because before, this map would return a double. Now it's returning an item, and we can't see out an item, right? C++ does not know how to print an item to the screen. So we're just going to grab the price of that, and we're going to grab the price out of that, and now we have refactored it. So our code now is basically the same as the code before. And there's C++ with the template substitution errors, page after page of error messages, because it doesn't know how to print out an item. And it doesn't tell you that. It doesn't give you a good error message. It just gives you an error message. So hamburger is not me. All right, so what happened here? Okay, right. Right. Ternary back in. And there we go. Okay. Got a stot error, right? Because we read off the end of the file. So, there we go. Okay. Problem solved forever. Do you still need the ternary operator after the read line? I do, yeah. So, all right. So, as you can see here, it's loading everything properly. We get hamburger, we get tax. Everything's being loaded properly. So let's give me a hamburger. Give me hamburger, give me death. Let me get some Fago up in here. Let's get some buffalo wings. Some buffalo wild wings. Okay, cue to quit. Total is working. Everything's fine. So that's what refactoring looks like. A lot of times you change a thing and it breaks everything, and you have to go through there and kind of put it all back the way it was before. So what we did here, right, this, do you guys understand what's happening here? Like when we say price is hamburger now, it's not returning a double because we changed this right here. So that the map is actually mapping between a string and a class, an item in this case, just two variables at once. So it's returning two variables, and you have to choose which variable do you want. Do you want prices or do you want tax status? And so we couldn't just see out prices food because it doesn't know how to print an item. So we have to choose which one of those two variables. We're getting two variables back, and we have to tell it, I want to print the price or I want to print the tax status. That kind of make, so like when you change something like this, everything that uses it breaks, right? And you kind of have to just go down the line and find every place where you were using your unordered map and fix it, right? The good news is, like, after you've done it a few times, it's not too bad. Before it was returning a double, so now it's returning an item. So if we want the double for the price, we just use dot price. And everywhere we had a square bracket before, it's now square bracket dot price. And that's it. So if it's taxed, so if prices food dot taxed. So if the food is taxed, then sum plus equals that times 1.08. What's the sales tax rate? Something like that in Fresno. $8.350. Okay. There. So not times 1. There. Because we've already added in the price here. So now we're just going to add the tax to the sum total. Okay. So, do you guys see how that works? This is basically what you need to know for Bank of Keith, right? You're going to link between an account number and a bank account balance. The bank account balance will have a name, an address, social security, bank account balance, that kind of stuff. And so the person's going to be like, transfer $20 from account 444 to account 999, and then account 444, you pull up the record, you debit it, however much you transferred, you go to account 999, you credit that much money. The only bit of trickiness in it is, what if you try transferring money that somebody doesn't have? So if you have $20 and you transfer 40, how does the bank handle that? Anyone know? You can't hear anything? Hello? 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 Good. All right. Everything's working. Excellent. Overdraft. Yes. So if you have $20 in your account and you write a check for $40, the bank will happily give $40 to the person. Your account drops down to -20, and they charge you an overdraft fee, and they penalize you for being poor, essentially, right? Overdraft fees these days are around $30, something like that. So Bank of Keith is, of course, going to get in on that action. They have less fees though than Wells Fargo. They only charge $29.99 for a NSF fee, non-sufficient funds fee, instead of the $30 of Wells Fargo or the $35 at Bank of America. So Bank of Keith has a competitive advantage there. So bank be like, lol, poor. Yeah, my worst story with that was I had automatic payments set up on my account. So on the first of the month, it would pay my credit card bill or whatever, right? And I got paid, and the payment cleared on the 31st. And then on the 1st, my automatic payments went out. Everything was fine. But they charged me an NSF fee anyway. And I was like, but why? My account never dipped negative. I had money positive. I got a paycheck. The payment went out to the credit card. Everything's fine. I had everything down to like millimeter level precision. Like, I have a balance of $13. Like, don't do this to me, because the NSF fee dropped me negative, and then I was making purchases for like $2, and each one of those was now an overdraft because the NSF fee dropped me from $13 to negative money, and then I'd go and spend $2 at Wendy's or whatever, and then that would trigger another $20 NSF fee. So at the end of the week, I checked my account and I had like -$400, and I'm like, what the hell just happened here? And so I call up Wells Fargo. I'm like, how did you charge me a non-sufficient funds fee when I had funds in the account? And they're like, well, when you have automatic payments set up, we check to see if you have money available for it 2 days before the payment goes out. And if you don't, we charge you a fee. And I'm like, that's nonsense. Like, I had the money. It had been deposited. Funds were available. It hadn't cleared, but it cleared the day before. I timed all of this perfectly for a reason, and now I have $400 of fees because your system is stupid. And they're like, all right, fair enough. And they they undid all of the fees, which, to be fair, none of it was justified. Like, all of it was like complete nonsense on their part. So you stand ECU. Yeah, it was absolutely infuriating. And the person couldn't even like really justify it. Like, well, that's just how the system is. The system checks to see if you have money 2 days before the transaction goes through. I'm like, that's dumb. Just check when you do it. Like, why do you have to have money before you need the money? Like, none of that makes sense. So I got $400 back. That was cool. And then later on, like, I eventually just marched into Wells Fargo, and I'm like, I don't want to pay fees anymore. And they were like, what? I'm like, I don't want to pay fees anymore. And they're like, okay. And so they just made a note on my account that I don't pay fees. So that was nice. So occasionally I get charged a fee, and I call them up. I'm like, check my account notes. And they're like, oh, yeah, it says you don't pay fees. I'm like, that's right. And they undo the fee. It's really nice. So didn't Wells Fargo get into a scandal? Yeah. They were doing like the mortgage stuff. Yeah. So anyway, let's see if this works. Okay. So write this code. Let's test it. Let's do some taxed items. Hamburger. Hamburger. That's Japanese, by the way. Hamburger. $9 and looks about right. 8%-ish tax. Cool. Let's do some Shasta Cola. Shasta Cola. Let's get some diabetes up in here. Shasta Cola. Let's get some diabetes. Let's do this. And $1. No tax on that because they feel bad for you. Okay. You do everything on their apps now. Need to go in person. Yeah, but for things like that, you have to talk to a person because the app will not reverse a fee for you. You have to talk to somebody to make that happen. Yeah. Got my insulin ready. Okay. I mean, that's basically it. Okay. So, to recap, maps are neat. The benefit of a map, by the way, is you have order one, insert, search, delete. We talked about this last time. That means you can write a record to the database, you can read a record from the database, you can delete a record from the database in one operation. Doesn't matter how big the thing is. You could have 1 billion records there, and it does it in a single operation. Now, you might run out of RAM or something, but basically, with a vector, if you had to search through a vector, right, for a record, the bigger the vector is, the longer it takes to search through it, right? So a vector would be like an order n search, right? Where if you have 1 million elements in the vector, you just have to go through all 1 million until you find the bank account for the person you're looking for. With an unordered map, it's order 1. So it's just constant lookup time. So it's neat. Unordered maps are just neat. Super fast. For the homework assignment, you're going to be given input files, test cases that are big. And so big, in fact, that if you use a vector to solve it, you won't be able to solve it in time. This assignment will be your first one where your assignments can fail points if they're not fast enough. And the reason for that is so that you're forced to use an unordered map instead of a vector. You can stick with a vector and pass 7 out of 10 test cases, but to get a 10 out of 10, you have to use a hash table. You have to use an unordered map. And what you're going to link is the account number is the key, and the record is going to be, the value is going to be like some sort of like account with like a name and an address and things like that. You pull it up, transfer the money, done. Okay? Right, yeah, the fake Twitter account announced free insulin for everybody, and Eli Lilly lost like $1 billion of market cap or something like that as a result of it. Right? Yeah. The new Twitter is like kind of a wild west, isn't it? That's a verified account right there. Verified account from Elon Musk's Twitter. The best is the Tesla, the verified Tesla account that is mocking Elon. It's funny. It's quite funny. Okay. Any other questions? I mean, I don't know. It's all news is good news, right? Is there an extra credit opportunity this week? Yes. By popular request, there is going to be a Latin dance of all things on Friday. So, we are going to be doing salsa apparently. So, and then next week we have another talk. I can look up which one that is. But yeah, there's going to be another. Oh no, next Friday is Thanksgiving. The weekend after that, we have another talk. So, okey-doke. Elon Musk is one freak accident away from becoming a Spider-Man villain. Mario showing his middle finger. Yeah. All right, so that's it for everybody. Thank you for coming out, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.